to PhD have been segregated into various levels. There are 9 levels, and out of the 10 levels, out of the 10 levels, 8, 9, and 10, they are applicable to higher education, starting from postgraduate to PhD. What it does, it will mix vocational training and general education together so that the employability increases. Also, the mobility, lateral mobility from one institution to another happens. Today, if a boy has completed first year in one university, he does not get admission in the second year in another university. So from January 1, I think that barrier would be removed. And also government is committed that the standard of the education would be brought to the level at par with those countries who have introduced national qualification framework. So I presume that our students passing from university or an institution like us in our country will be directly absorbed in the companies, maybe in UK, USA, or Japan, or in another country. So that means a sea change is going to happen very soon with the objective of employability, not only in the national arena, also in the international field. Now the government is committed, and the government has said that there are 5 learning outcomes you are looking for. The one learning outcome is ethical and moral development, knowledge and cognitive skills. So I remind you that when I asked my student, how about your performance? The boss said, theoretical knowledge. Now the theoretical knowledge, how it has to be applied, that would be taught in the school, starting from the mid school to the postgraduate. Interpersonal skills and analytical skills and communication skills, especially mathematics and statistics with a research study background. So every postgraduate student is expected to have a background in research, and he should be competent in using and applying mathematics and statistics in problems. So that is the new thought. So with this background, I think this conclave is very meaningful, especially this year. And I think this will be the beginning of bridging the gap industries and academia. So I have got very knowledgeable panelists here, which who would be anchored by our knowledgeable faculty, Shishir Polasani. So I have no doubt in my mind that this is going to be a very interesting conclave, interesting panel discussion. And I feel, at least for me, there will be a lot of takeaways so that I can work further in the sector of education. So with this, I welcome you all again, and thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Now, we would like to call upon our chairman, Dr. D.N. Rao, to address the gathering.
Good evening to all of you. My name is Dr. D.N. Rao, and I have 2 roles. Half the day I work on the right side of it, and the half I work on the left side of it. By profession, by training, I'm an entrepreneur. and I have a passion for education. I've been the General Secretary of Vignana Jyothi for the last 8 years. And today's theme is one of my favorite subjects to discussion among our faculty members and also our students. And we're at a times where I think this subject has a tremendous importance. On the right side of it, the corporate India is changing at a very fast rate. Today, we can survive no more as a service provider for the whole world. We have to have our own manufacturing capabilities. We have to have our own agricultural output. amidst a shrinking acreage of agriculture. So the challenges are changing. On the left side is educating. Professor Ghosh has used two words which we always debate. Are you educated or are you learned? We educate people, but when they go and apply their education to their application, that's the learning. Applying the learning, I think we failed there. It's been there. I think I remember the famous Dr. Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan mentioning, okay, all of us are classroom scientists. We talk about nuclear energy, nuclear capabilities, this one, but when we go home, we say, which is the correct foot to put in, is the right foot or the left foot? We're so dogmatic, we're so driven by different factors. With this background, at Vignana Jyothi, we started an initiative called Wit and Will. Wit is a faculty member has to teach before introduce the topic or the subject, why he or she is teaching the subject she is teaching. And it's a handshake with the student. The student has to say why he is learning what he's learning with a practical example. We've been trying it. This is a Wit and Will. We have the process is applied for patent. Okay. So this we find is creating tremendous challenges, tremendous improvements in teaching learning process. Okay. Hope we'll be able to publish a decent statistical data and a paper on this one. Okay. And now coming back to the to matching this one, the two terms that we use these days, we hear these days on the right side is innovation and entrepreneurship. I put them together, you see. They're not a corporate, an entrepreneur in a corporate, I think we have a nice term called intrapreneur. So developing an entrepreneurship at a student stage will definitely help and a corporation when you take him inside, because he becomes an intrapreneur. Okay. And training them for this one is essential. The nature of jobs that are changing. Today, corporate India is looking not at the mundane jobs, but we are looking at a leadership, with a research. Otherwise, there's no future for corporates. Innovation has to be embedded in the corporate sector. And on education front of it, I think we have a lot of thinking to do. Matching the skills to the requirements. Today in Hyderabad, there's a common knowledge that you can get a software engineer, you can get a management graduate, but it's very difficult to get a plumber, or it's very difficult to get this one. And we have raised the aspirational levels of the whole, at least in this state, to such levels. There are I don't know, 3 lakh seats for an engineering. At one time they used to get free. Okay, and there are hardly about 1,500 seats for ITIs, industrial training institutes. This is exactly the reverse in in China and other places. Okay, we require, fortunately, I think we're talking about skill development these days, and that is the focus, I think, that the corporate sector should focus on. It's not just training what for your requirement. I think you have to take up a responsibility either through CSR or through a structure of and I look forward.
Thank you, sir.
We would now like to invite the eminent panel members onto the dais. Professor B.R. Virmani, Chairman of Center for Organization Research and Development.
Dr. Renu Khanna, Head of Leadership and Professional Services, TechMahindra.
Mr. Pramod Chandrasekhar, Head L&D, Wells Fargo.
And Dr. Pinakinandan Patnaik, Associate Professor, NALSA.
The theme for today's discussion is Educating India's Future Workforce, Role of Corporate India.
And the moderator for today's discussion is Professor Shishir Polasani, Strategy at VJIM.
We now hand over the floor to you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry for the delay, but let me introduce briefly our distinguished panel members. Start off with Professor Virmani, who is the founder, chairman, and director of Center for Organization Research and Development here in Hyderabad. Introduction would take probably 100 pages, so I'll keep it brief. So he's been the dean and chair professor of in ASCII, had decades of industry experience, culminating in being a CEO of a major company. Interestingly, he has written a book that nobody has attempted, surprisingly, and that is Challenges or in Indian Management, published in various Indian languages. That is the first. Welcome, sir. Dr. Renu Khanna, she is a global head in leadership development in TechMahindra. She is a certified coach, played various roles, learning strategist, been a guest faculty in various MBA schools. Interestingly, the one congruent work that she's been doing is with Mahindra and Mahindra. She has been building alliances with various global universities. I would probably have her build alliances with Indian universities as well. Welcome. Pramod Chandrasekhar, he is the head of Learning and Development, Wells Fargo Enterprise Global Services. Among the various roles he plays is competency building, onboarding of new recruits, and building a leadership pipeline. Now, where does that pipe start? Probably at school level is what I want him to, even before, pretty good. Research interests include organizational behavior, designing OT interventions across cultures. That is interesting, absolutely. Finally, we have Dr. Pinaki Nandan Patnaik. He is the head Center for Management Studies in Alzar. He has been founding faculty of KIIT Law School in Bhubaneswar. But, he has a deep interest and an expert knowledge in how businesses work in 3 countries, Japan, North America, and also probably some other countries that I don't even know about. And he's also currently researching, he's a book author, but he's researching and understanding the impact of law on university spin-offs. So let's understand what a university spin-off is really. So thank you very much. Coming here, I was writing all this on pieces of paper, and my son, who's in the 7th grade, he said, "You know, Dad, you can do it on your cell phone that you carry around." Sign of times, I guess. So let's say that again. I'll put in a few numbers just to create a context. Research points out, and various articles point out, that there is, by 2020, a global shortfall of skilled manpower of around 28 to 30 million. In the next 3 years, India alone has about 250 million students, either in college or about to enter the workforce in the next 3 years. Given this mind-boggling number, the gross enrollment ratio into colleges and of colleges of higher education stands between 7 and 19%, whereas the global average is 30. China has about 28, US has probably the highest 38 at the higher education level. So 19 won't just cut it, I believe. So of these, the unemployable graduates from various studies put it at 80%. 80% of our graduates are not ready for the workforce. And finally, the National Knowledge Commission report in 2006 says we would need probably 1,500 universities. The graduates that we are churning out is just not enough. We would need 1,500 universities, faculties to staff them, schools to build them, and they also go on and in the same report set this line that probably would set off this panel today. A quiet crisis in higher education that runs deep is how they summarized it. So with that, Professor Virmani, do you think higher education in India is at an inflection point? Seeing that the National Knowledge Commission is saying that there is a quiet crisis.
Well, there is a sort of crisis in the sense that we are producing people, but organizations feel that they are not employable. So that is, I had done a study of the management trainee scheme and graduate engineer training, which was sponsored by FICCI, Traditional Indian Chamber. And this issue came up, wherein the industry people said that people are not properly trained, wherein we can use them. When I went to educational institutions, their point of view was that how do we know where will our students join? In India, we have all types of organizations. We have organizations which have a technology of 1940s, 50s, and we have also industries which have the latest technology. So therefore, our role is to give them a good fundamental knowledge. And then it is industry's responsibility, when the student joins them, to train them. The kind of system, technology, culture they have in the organization. But our role is to make them trainable, that we train them in such a manner that industry can train them. Similarly, technology issue came up also in the discussion. They say that technology is changing so fast. In fact, some technology become totally obsolete. You take like Kodak. Now Kodak has filed a bankruptcy petition. In 2 decades or even 10 years ago, Kodak films were the most popular, and all youngsters used to think that Kodak is a good company, they should join. Why? Because the whole filmmaking was a chemical technology. Now chip came in, and now the Kodak is gone. Now Bombay Photo Film, it is closed down. So therefore, unless the industry also see that they are abreast with the technology, and educational institution has to train people, how do you change a chemical technologist to a chip technologist? No, I saw in Singapore or Malaysia or even in South Korea, they run program. In Malaysia, they call it Singapore also. They call it FF program, fast forward program. What they mean by fast forward program is when technology changes, they are put through a program which they learn very quickly to the new technology, provided they are trainable. And who makes them trainable? The educational institutions. So therefore, it is there that a coordination is required between the two. One more point I would like to say before my other colleagues, that while talking to these youngsters, they feel that after they go out of the education institution and join the industry, the environment is totally different than what they had learned. And when I went deeper into it, the point was, some industry is very good, very ethical, moral principles, which initially Mr. Ghosh was referring. But they were industry following unethical. Now, when you talk to industry, they say, we are not unethical. The inspector wants money. When election comes, politicians want money. So therefore, I have to generate black money. Now, the youngsters say that here we were never taught how to generate black money. So they pick cap. Now, I feel one way is, and many industries like ISB, they take people who have 2-3 years experiences in industry. Even when I did MBA, I 3 years I had experience in industry. Then I could get what is relevant, what is not relevant. I knew what are issues. Question to the teachers, look, I am asked to make black money now. How do I handle these issues?
Interesting observations. Pramod, 2 words that the professor threw out, trainable and also experience before they embark on higher education. In your various roles, you also are in charge of new hire onboarding. Do you see this, that the graduates entering the workforce, you are kind of sort of a gatekeeper. Do you see that they are trainable, or are they coming just raw?
Thank you for this question. I thoroughly enjoyed the last point that Professor Virmani said about black money, and I was just thinking, here we'll have a master of black assets or MBA kind of a course. That will be really interesting. But to your question, saying are they too raw or are they trainable? I think you very wisely left out a third option, are they employable? So you're just kind of going on the lower end of the spectrum. So let me just first say that at a large, and I'm just going back to the 70s and 80s, that's my generation, when there was this professor called Dr. Peter Senje wrote this book called The Fifth Discipline. And the last part, some of you are nodding in recognition, which is good. He talks about what a learning organization should be. And at that point, he studied some of the best universities in the world. He studied some of the best corporations in the world, and he made this very interesting, insightful observation. He said, what's happening in the best of the best, whether it's in the corporate world or the universities? He says the best universities are beginning to resemble organizations, the corporate world. And he said the best of the corporate world are beginning to resemble universities. So I think that was not only an insightful observation, but a very prophetic one, because we're still trying to achieve that kind of a balance. Now, coming back to your question, I would say largely, I'd like to give a very optimistic view here, but I should be honest. It's Friday evening, I know, but I would largely go by raw. And I don't want to leave it at that, because I want to kind of give some suggestions here. I want to tell the students here, that it's your responsibility also to bridge the gap. I want to tell you a quick little story, and that is, I read about this doctor who had a very complicated case in his hand, and he was a very reputed doctor. And then he goes back years ago to when he was in the 8th standard, and he said, I came across a case like this years ago in my 8th standard. Now that's a very peculiar thing to say. In my 8th standard, he was not even a doctor, I came across this case. So people asked him what he meant by that weird statement. And here's what he said. He said that I had decided very early in my life to be a doctor. So every year in my summer break, I would try to get a job in a hospital. And you couldn't get a good job in a hospital as an intern when you're in 8th standard. So the job he got was that of a janitor. And I'm speaking to you students here, okay? Dr. Rao said about, dignity of labor, And so as a janitor, he was going around sweeping the place, talking to patients, because patients love people to talk with. And he was talking to doctors, and he got a lot of knowledge. So what I'm trying to draw out from this story is that he decided very early in life what he wanted to be and went about with a singular determination. So he tried to, in his own juvenile way, bridge the gap, and that's what you students should do. Now, I know the majority of you are from the industry, so you should also do your best to bridge the gap. And I won't go waxing too eloquent about that, but I want to say, do something innovative. Find 100 different reasons as to how you can get the academia into the walls of your corporate. Your security guards will object to it, and your facilities group will say, no, they have no place here, they don't have an ID card. But find innovative reasons how you can get into there. Maybe you can have a panel discussion like this with all students and with all your managers listening to it. I'm just throwing out some ideas, but find ways in which we can, on a daily basis, not just once a year or something like that. Find ways which are beyond recruitment and beyond the traditional ways in which we interact with academia, and get people into the walls of your corporate, and you'll find how this magic happens. So the answer is raw, but there's a lot that both of us can do about it.
We'll move on to talking about how universities should be pulled into the corporate level. Has this been your experience, Renu, building learning alliances with global universities? And also, second part is, as a learning strategist, do you think corporates are doing enough, or can they do more in interfering, so to speak, in how students are educated in schools. Is that early, too early, or are there ways that you can intervene?
Answer to your first question, building alliances. Let me tell you, I'm talking from a corporate perspective. What does a business leader's scorecard read? What is he or she responsible for? Responsible for revenues, responsible for profitability, responsible for customer satisfaction, and responsible for employee satisfaction. These are the only 4 metrics that a business leader is measured on. Now, if you translate that into people reporting to him or her, that exactly turns out to be the action items which are given to the people below them. So obviously when people come in from the colleges also, we expect them to align to these 4 metrics which are there with the business leader. So if you look at what is the biggest quality that we are looking for people in the changing times with competition hotting up, is the ability to handle ambiguity. There is so much of ambiguity which is happening right across the world. We are looking for people who can handle ambiguity, who don't come here and say, can you give me a job description? This is which competency, you hired me for this competency, and now you're asking me to do a different job. Please tell me these 6 things that I'm expected to do. So all of us come with a very fixed mindset that when I get into a corporate, these are the things that I'm expected to perform. But remember, a corporate is a mad, mad world. It's a jungle. You don't know how things change here. So it's very important for us to retrain our readers from time to time. And that is why we alliance partnerships with universities where they learn from their peers. Internal learning sometimes is not sufficient because they get to see the same leaders over and over again, or same thought leaders coming and talking to them. So when they go outside, they realize culturally things are changing and they learn from each other. They learn what strategies are happening. Where is the gap between strategy and execution? How less they know about business acumen, etc., etc. So that's why it's a big thing. And in TechMahindra, we have alliance partnerships with Oxford. We have an alliance partnership with Stanford, Harvard, because that's the place where they come back, learn, teach their own people, and then the whole organization learns in the process. So that's something, that's the answer to your first question. And I forgot the second question. I'm sorry.
I did too. So before we go on to Pinaki, please chip in. We don't want to proselytize from here. Whenever a thought crosses your mind, please shoot, and then I'll take the time. Professor Pinaki, reasoning, ambiguity, I know you are from a law school, so argument also I'll throw in. Are we training our graduates enough?
I know that a lot of people here have said a lot of things about training, retraining, learning, relearning, unlearning, and all of the big words punched in. What I can tell you what we have done at NALSA, and primarily, of course, at the Center for Management Studies. I did come across some of these points that you've said when I was doing my MBA at University of Saskatchewan. It's a very difficult word to spell out. So, and I learned something there which was absolutely out there. As soon as you join the MBA program at the University of Saskatchewan, what they do is they allot a mentor. And the mentor primarily is like a team leader in a corporate world, and you are given cubicles. You do not sit down in the classroom throughout the day. You have about a couple of classes in a day, and post those classes, you are almost mandated to sit down in the cubicle to do your work. You are debarred from carrying bags. You cannot carry a backpack. You cannot carry books. There are no books to study from. The professor used to walk into our class, hand out the syllabus, and in the right hand, in the left hand, you would have a big black garbage bag and say, well, now you've had the syllabus, dump it. That's about it. I mean, you just learn every day. We worked in the cubicle and we punched in and punched out. And that's how we learned how to do things. So I carried some of those to the Center for Management Studies. And what we have there is called an ideation lab. And in the ideation lab, what we try and do is at the beginning of the semester, we hand out a real-time problem to a bunch of students, which is a team. And the team has to necessarily spend a minimum of 10 hours per course. So if you're teaching them about 8 papers in a semester, they have to spend 80 hours in a semester sitting down in a team, working out ideas, testing them, retesting them, finalizing them, implementing them. And so they have a business problem which they work out over a period of the semester, applying only those concepts that they learn in that semester. I guess that's as close as we have come to a real life corporate world. We haven't done, as of now, it's only a year and a half old. We haven't tried and tested a lot of things, but this is one thing which is a departure from the usual way of teaching and learning in the school. And yeah, it's under the test process. We'll see how it works out, pans out.
I remember the second part, Renu. It is precisely this. Learning by doing is a great way to train students. Biggest problem is that universities and institutions, probably barring the top tier IIMs, NALSA, and others, are struggling to get these kinds of insights and real-time problems to administer to students. So then never get a chance, barring a few case studies that are published. Students are not given enough exposure. So as Pramod was saying, more and more corporates should open their doors and bring these into the early stages of their education. So what are your thoughts?
I think absolutely, there is no denying in it at all. But let's remember, this debate has been going on for years together.
Absolutely.
The academia expectation is different and the corporate expectation is different. The corporate is running after revenues and profits all the time. While we talk about engagement, but I think we haven't slowed down. We have to pause before we punch. We have no time to pause. We have no time to deliberate, and we have no time to reflect. And this is the same case with corporates and also with academia. And I think now is the time when both the agencies, because your output is our input. It's a consumer market. So if you produce people the way we want it, and the 3 top competencies that I am talking about today is handling ambiguity, alternate thinking or critical thinking, and working together. And of course, communication skills I'm taking as very hygiene factors for everybody. And I'm sure all the HR people would resonate with what I'm saying. And this is also for the students who are standing there. Please don't come with a baggage from your head that you have an MBA degree. My daughter did her MBA from Symbiosis and she works for Infosys right now. And believe me, whatever she learned in her 2 years, I don't think she's using any of that. She's a BPHR, and what she does is she just churns out numbers and reports. And what she does is puts these reports in front of the manager, usually goes to the floor and says, well, I have to do some engagement activity because it's a tick mark that I need to do. And the third thing she says I need to do is have a review every week with my boss. Those are a set of activities that she does. So wouldn't it be good if you know the realities of corporates, if a person is coming in for the first 2 years, he or she has to dirty her hands. So give them that simulated environment in the organization. Because today, probably MBA colleges are not using enough of technology. There's a Flipkart technology which is there. There is MOOCs which has come in. There is web-based learning. There is network-based learning. I think technology is not being used enough by colleges today. Real case studies, I think organizations like us would be willing to give you so many case studies which would be truly in real time. What are some of the simple problems that they would need to face with their manager? What would a customer be saying? What are the financial problems that you will have to do? What would be those HR pieces that you should be equipped with? What are those do's and don'ts of an organization? And I think we would be very happy to partner. And TechMahindra itself has started a school which is called the Equal Central. And we got in 240 people in the first year. And what we've done with them is we've given them integrated education, which means both on humanities, social sciences, and engineering to build a complete individual. So today people are coming, yes, I've got a degree, therefore I come with my ego into the corporates. No. Corporates also have their ego in saying, all right, I hired you, so better work with me. I think that's a disconnect which still exists because we are all coming with our own paradigms. Until those paradigms break, and I think many corporates today as a part of their corporate social responsibility are taking the first step. And I think it's time that we meet somewhere and start something which is more meaningful.
You raised an interesting observation. Corporates are forever running after expenses. Sadly, there is a corporate education sector that is rising up. They're running after profits too. So nobody seems to have the time. Interestingly, you say that you're taking the first step. But the problem is, like you said, students do not really understand the realities. Your own daughter's case, I keep telling our students as to how after an MS, I had to haul a server on my shoulder and then get up a flight of stairs and then fix it manually. But students come in and then say, yeah, this job is not really good because they do not give me a desk and they ask me to go out in the sun. These kinds of attitudes, paradigms, so to speak, that are built, probably pampered. Kids are more pampered these days. Is there an end in sight, Professor Virmani? Your own organizational development research, do you see that companies are struggling to absorb students from these institutions and then kind of shifting the patterns of their thoughts?
No, there is a perception gap really. What the educational institution think, what they need, and the industries which perceive what kind of knowledge the students should have. Now the real challenge is how do we bridge that gap? That is important. I remember in College of Social Work, even here, or even my first degree was social work. Even in those days, I'm talking of 60s, even in those days, we had every month so many days field work and so many days theoretical work. Now with the result that in those days, social work, the entry point for personnel profession was social work in those days. Now, the students didn't have much problem because they were well aware with the industries. Still it is practiced. Even a social work college in Hyderabad still does that. They have that field work, they call it. So in Germany I saw similar. In every profession in Germany, okay, so many days you work in industry, they have collaborative arrangement with the industry. So whether we can think of some kind of similar arrangement, then possibly this gap could be reduced between the two.
Certain professions are more amenable to that kind of work, medical institutions, probably law, social work, and these. But when it comes to business and the hard skills of engineering and all, although the same kind of involvement while they are studying, learning by doing, is a requisite component, where should this collaboration start to happen? Because the tight regulations which UGC, AICP and the other regulatory authorities lay on do not often give these institutions a lot of time and leeway to indulge in that kind of an involvement. What are your thoughts, Prabhu?
I mean, the one question I'm just borrowing from what the others have said. So, Dr. Virmani said that it's a perception gap, And I think that's a very meaningful phrase, and we have to build on that. I mean, any field, I mean, within corporate itself, there's so much conflict because of perception gap. You know, so perception gap is one thing. The other thing I was really impressed by what Dr. Patnaik said, and I really hope, I mean, it's consistently done in your institute and many other institutes. He said you put the syllabus, trash the syllabus on day one. I think that itself. So I don't know. I mean, I'm not so, and I apologize here. I'm saying it in an apologetic term. I'm so well versed with the pressures that are there in the academic world to comment on that aspect that the AICT and these other governing bodies don't give you much of leeway. You know, so I don't know how much time you have or something, but you know, when it comes to perception, Dr. Sishir, it's not a matter of time. It's not the syllabus. Many of these things are paper tigers. You know, they're not true. They're just perception gaps. And you know, you got to fight it. You got to realize the need for it. I want to tell you that when I was in college, the most memorable days were when I visited the companies. You know, those were really memorable. I remember them even now, which companies I went. When I'm in the industry, some of the most memorable days are when I visit college. You know, so we all realize how important both these worlds are for us. And if they are so important, we got to fight the perception gap. It's not a matter of time. It's not a matter of syllabus. It's not a matter of balanced scorecard. It's something beyond that. We've got to look at that and make that effort. If the mindset changes, we'll find a way. We'll find a way to do that.
NBA's, AICT's, just to lay a context, MCI, all the other regulatory authorities, they routinely audit universities and institutions of higher learning across various parameters. But these parameters, sadly, do not deal extensively with the kind of skills that you are looking for in graduates. So when they come to a school, they do not really say whether this student has enough reasoning capabilities or can they deal with ambiguity. Most often it is whether the, again, I'm sorry to say this, but most often it is about whether the watchman's entry door is 90 square feet. So we are caught in two different audit processes. Would it be that the industry lobby, the CII, and the other bodies lay pressure on UGC and all in trying to bring some sense of, again, practicality into how they audit these institutions? You have the leeway, Pinaki, because you are a tier 1 college. You can get away with it. Let us try it in ours, and then all hell breaks loose. So, yeah.
Well, just wanted to respond to Pramod here in terms of syllabuses and what we do, and of course, building it on from Jasir. AICTE for management colleges at least does not prescribe a specific set of guidelines or courses. What AICTE does is it talks about the structural requirements. Universities essentially draw out syllabuses. Now, when you're talking about state universities or affiliating universities, they have a set structure in place already and they just want you to follow it. But I always believe that a structure might be in place, but the pedagogy is not. So therefore, what has to change is the pedagogy has to change and not necessarily the process. The process might still remain the same. And since the last 60, 65 years, we are a democracy. Democracy hasn't changed, but the pedagogy has changed. People are now voting, they're walking up to vote. That has changed. When previously they were not, today they are. And education is the one which has done it to them. So therefore, I believe pedagogy has to change. We do make, it's a mandate, so therefore we do make our syllabuses but it is not mandated on any of my teachers, and some of them are available to necessarily follow them. You have to bring in what is the latest into the class. I mean, if you cannot bring in the latest, there's no point in being in the class. Today, books are available on the internet. I'll just give you one small little example. We prescribed a book to the students, Introduction to Technology and Innovation Management. And first class, I was taking the paper, so I asked them, how many of you have got your book on the table? None, zero. And so I said, well, okay, how many of you have got your book? Everybody. Because they just have e-copies. They downloaded it from someplace, they have got e-copies, exactly same edition as I had in my hand, a physical copy. So it's not mandatory for them to have structures in place which are as required by us. I mean, we might be outdated. I met a professor from NCR a couple of days ago, and she had this amazing point to say about marketing. We were having a discussion on marketing, and she says, well, if you walk into the class and talk to the students about marketing today, when they essentially go out of the school in 2 years' time, marketing would have changed. So therefore, there's no point. I mean, there's no point holding back to what Porter said in 1980s. That has now changed and will change, keep on changing. Who can provide them that change impetus? That is more important. I have a couple of suggestions for the industry, but I'll hold them back for some other
Sure. We have a question from
syllabus. One minute.
Yeah.
No, there are two kind of. One is the university patron. Say you are affiliated to Osmani University. Other is AICT gives direct recognition. Say like I started this in National Institute of Agricultural Extension Management in MBA program, where they have full freedom because it is directly recognized by AICT. But in the Osmani University, it is not so.
Absolutely.
They have a technology, MBA with technology. I have written a book on research technology transfer. They asked me, will you take 2-3 hours spend with the student? So I talked to them the technology transfer problem in various Europe countries, Korea, Malaysia, that, all that, based on my research. And at the end, they say it was very interesting, but what you spoke is not in our syllabus. So they are so syllabus oriented. Why? It is not the case where there is a direct recognition. So I did a restructuring of UGC, University Grant Commission. One of my assignment was. I told this issue to UGC, give them freedom, to the university setup. They say, no, in university setup, we have to go through this procedure, that procedure. This is a problem. We have to take up with the politician, education ministry, that look, give freedom to the universities, what kind of curriculum. Otherwise, you are not changing with the technology, with the system.
We have a question.
Not a question, but basically, I'm very excited, Renu, to hear what you said a few minutes ago, and Dr. Knight. You talked about MOOCs. Okay. I think that is what, and you talked about pedagogy. And in the my introduction, I talked about Vignana Jyothi. Okay. We have made it in our institution, at least the engineering part of it, where we study, that they pipe into the classroom at least one MOOC lecture onto the screen. Because that's one single item that can make the students grow. And the pedagogy-wise, we have defined, as we made it mandatory, we call it as a wit and will protocol in a classroom. I think we are seeing tremendous results of this one. One reason why our educational standards are not meeting the expectations is because today's teacher were yesterday's students. If you teaching community, especially in the engineering colleges, and I'm sure it's similar in the management institutions, none of them, how many teachers putting the marketing, teaching the marketing job has sold cigarettes in hot sun at 42 degrees centigrade? If you have If you observe ITC, for example, okay, all the chairmen, they sold the cigarettes in their small pawn shops. At least next to them, they stood at 42 degrees centigrade. Experiencing that, okay, in the present context in these large numbers is difficult. But when we pump in MOOC into the classrooms, it makes a dramatic change. And I appreciate that you mentioned those things, and the pedagogy that you mentioned, it has to change to include the global learning, the best of the teachings in the world you get through MOOC today. Previously, we used to feel guilty of using them because of the copyrights and others. Today, they allow us to use it, and I think thank you very much for mentioning.
So I think what he said, and I just want to add to what he said, the whole style of teaching and learning is also changing today. While behavioral changes happen only 10% in the classroom, a lot around coaching and mentoring and also on-the-job learning. So while we are from the corporate, we get in leaders to teach, whether it's project management, program management, sales, whether it's competencies. A learning department might not have the bandwidth to do that. So the true people who come and teach into the learning world also are people who have hands-on experience. They are the people who've gone into the field, like what you said, have they sold cigarettes? So have they done this project? Do they know what their customers' expectations are? Can they really reach out to them? Do they truly know how to sell? Do they know how to hunt? Do they know how to mine? And I think those are the things which will come from on the job. So on the job learning today, when you look at 10, 20, 70 principle or 20, 30, whatever numbers you want to give it, the whole pattern is changing and the mindset is changing. So maybe it's a good question for the academies to ask themselves, are we also changing our curriculum accordingly? So that would be my input to what you said.
Although I might not have sold a few cigarettes, but I smoke definitely in 42 degrees. I'm sure students all over India are doing that too. In-shared pedagogy, faculty retraining, changing how we approach the whole scenario of teaching, freedom. The biggest problem as a teacher I find, and probably I'm sure many others feel, are two issues. One is, how do I as a teacher get access to this changing scenarios in real time? So I can bring it into my classroom. And more importantly, what is the incentive for the student to learn? Because reality is, see, I've seen an advertisement yesterday about an engineering college. They went on and said, the big 3 IT companies have scooped up 1,600 of their engineering graduates. And I'm guessing not all of them, these engineers are trained to be software engineers. So students intuitively know that whatever they may have learned in school is just a ticket into a corporate world, and these times are consumed by a focus on service and not much on innovation, not much on entrepreneurship. So where is the incentive? How are corporates or academia incentivizing students to get those special skills and concentrate on them? I leave it up to the panel to, or even the audience to tell. Anybody know? Yeah, gentleman in the back.
Good evening, gentlemen. First of all, congratulations to Vignana Jyothi Institute of Management for having arranged an excellent conclave. I want to just compliment them by saying that last year we picked up your students, and they are doing extremely well. And probably we'll be visiting very soon. We'll be visiting your campus very soon in about a couple of weeks. Coming to the curriculum, I want Renu and Pramod to reflect on my question. You know, the National HRD Conference this time in Mumbai has a very interesting theme. It says handling VUCA, volatility, uncertainty, complexity, complexity and ambiguity. Okay, Renu made an excellent point about ambiguity. But what about training your students on handling VUCA? That is my first part of the question. Second part, there was some comment saying that technology should be used better to evolve, to make the students evolve out of their shells and all that. I think we have had enough of technology now. Okay, what is lacking amongst the fresh students of management colleges when they enter the corporates is social skills. I mean, all the time they're on the internet. Okay, there is no effort, no proactive effort to build relationships across business lines. Okay, social skills are lacking. So I want you to have reflect on this, reflect with your thoughts on this. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, I'll just share a few thoughts. I mean, fascinating what you said, and thank you also for complimenting VJIM. So your question in essence was, what do we do? I mean, and what do we do to equip our people to deal with the VUCA world? That is a volatile, uncertain, chaotic, and ambiguous world. And inherent in that question is an assumption, and I actually agree with your assumption, is that the classroom is not enough. It has to be on the real world. And Dr. Renu Khanna actually stressed upon that 10, 20, 70. For those who are not very familiar, I just want to quickly state out what it is. So it's a study which came out, I think it was Carnegie Mellon Carnegie Mellon, which actually is now widely accepted across the learning world. It's very almost insulting to the learning professional, but we believe in it all the same. The study says that only 10% of all the learning you have in your job, in your life, comes from organized learning. Only 10%. 20% comes on learning from others. 70%, whopping 70%, some would say that it's even more, actually comes when you learn on the job. So now coming back to your question, what do you do to equip people to face the VUCA world? It's a reality. Jack Welch, at that time when he was at the helm of GE, made this very interesting observation, and it's something that is going to disturb you. So I'm saying this with a warning. All of those who are in corporate, you're very smug, you have some good positions, you're very happy with your recent promotion and stuff like that. So this is what he said. There is change happening out there in the market. And if the rate of change outside is faster than the rate of change inside, then it's a sure shot recipe for your death, for your disaster. In other words, inside the organization, you're not changing at the same rate or actually faster than the change that is happening outside. And that's same applicable even to the universities. And so you got to change faster. Now, what we do, and this can only be done on the job. So I think, and you made a very interesting statement. You said, who made that statement? You said, if it's a 2-year course and you're teaching marketing, what you learn in the first year is already obsolete by the time you pass out. Imagine engineering. In technology, they say it's an 18-month shelf life. Most of the people agree about that. Any technology lasts for around 18 months and then it becomes obsolete. Imagine a 4-year course. What you learned in the first year, assuming that at least the first year is in sync with the market. Even if it is, what you learned in your first year is obsolete by the time you're in your 3rd year. And here you are, so it only has to, my thing is, learning has to be, and one of the terms which has come very strongly for learning L&D professionals is performance consulting. It's something that you learn on the job at all the time. And learning for me has to be staggered. It has to be bite-sized. It has to be not at a stretch. It has to be at the moment, at the right time. At the moment, the learning has to be delivered. We have to find innovative ways of doing that. It has to be almost simultaneous. So you're working on one side and you're learning on the other. It can't be sequential. We got to throw that mindset out. And we got to, as the change is happening, keep learning. So that's the only thing I can say.
Just to add, and I think while the organizations can do that, social units, our own families, our schools also have to start doing that. Because the real skill building starts from the family. If the family is not building those skills in the people, is not allowing the children to make decisions or think. We teach our children to walk, but we don't allow our children to think. But as soon as they come into MBA colleges and corporates, we are telling them, now you think differently, think creatively, be innovative, take decisions, but hierarchically, we want to hold on to power. So I think there's such a tussle that's going on. So I think why corporates and why MBA colleges should go down right to families, to mothers and fathers, and each one of us has a role to play. I'm a sociologist, a social psychologist by profession, and I think it starts right there, not at colleges. Even
Absolutely,
before.
and I'd also probably add on that more than family, the extended family of the early learning schools too should implement that, let go of some of that power and not admonish the first student to ask too many questions.
But the onus of learning is still on the student.
Absolutely,
I don't think we can take that away.
I have to add something. I would like to take a leap at pedagogy of Nalsar University. In fact, how do we handle this VUCA? So I could take 2 examples. In fact, with respect to group presentations. So we call students for group presentations, but we don't take group presentations as is. Suddenly we ask them to do a panel discussion. Suddenly we ask them to do a role play. So because there is something ambiguity which they are not sure of how to handle the presentation or else any assignment. Even to take a leap of Mr. Patnaik's pedagogy. So whenever he gives an assignment, the instructions are not given. It is open. It is open to test. Suddenly he asks them. He gives half enough time. You can use any kind of resources, any kind of person, or else you can bring any person along with them to the room. At the end of the day, they have to submit the assignment. Everything is available to them. So on one hand, we are trying to invite openness to learning, and at the same time, we are ensuring that how they have to address this ambiguity by calling for this surprise exercise.
Yeah, pretty pertinent. I always tell our students that our education system do not depend too much on it, at least the evaluation pattern of it. Nobody in your manager is definitely not going to tell you one day that sometime next week between 10 and 1 o'clock I'll ask you 8 questions, and then if you have 4 of them, then you can still keep the job. That kind of uncertainty has to be built, but sadly universities and as an extension affiliated and non-affiliated colleges follow the same pattern of evaluation. That needs to, while change, who is going to bell the cat is really the problem. So I'll leave it up to the panel or the audience again. Who's going to bell the cat? This answer and another one, another question.
The problem I have perceived in my students many times they are afraid of uncertainty. The education system in India is such that they have never been introduced to uncertainty, and now is the time when they're fighting for that job. If they don't get the job, there is a social stigma attached to it. So they don't want to experiment anything, and like Shishi sir added, we should start this introducing to the students to the uncertainty quite early. If you try to introduce them in the higher education, I don't think it would work. Thanks.
I just wanted to throw some light on uncertainty. I think it's a lot of importance given to an uncertain world. Uncertainty is a part of life, is a reality. I mean, when I walk out of this room in the next whatever time, I don't know if the flow is still there. I might fall down. I mean, it is an uncertain life. Life, by definition, is uncertain. So there's no doubting uncertainty. What has happened is structure. Thought over the years when kids are born. I mean, I know I have a son who's 3 years old, and And I'll just give you one small little example. This is really admired professor, Professor G.V. Ajappa. He's about 92 years old, but teaches law at Nalsar at times when he comes over. Otherwise, a grand old daddy of law, legal education in this country. And I recall about 6 months back, both of him and me were working down to my place for lunch, and my wife was with my son who came, and we met. He saw me at a distance, started running, and crashed, had slashed legs or whatever. And my wife wanted to pick him up because he fell down. He wanted to pick him up, and Professor Ajappa, from that distance, about 50 meters distance, he called and he said, "Don't touch him. Let him get up. He'll get up on his own." You cannot learn to walk if you do not fall down. Sense of life. I mean, it's life's reality. We talk a lot about VUCA times. Let me tell you, all of those, each individually, each segment of it, volatility, uncertainty, complexity, chaotic, or ambiguity. They're all realities of life. We are just focusing too much on it. Let the kids fall down and wake up. That's what I believe. I mean, the first semester, if half of my class flunks in operations, let them flunk. What is the big deal about it? Let them flunk, they'll do it another time. But if they do not flunk that time, if we actually push them beyond the grade, you know what happens? They do not realize that they're not worth it. They think, yeah, sure, you know what, I can walk, it's a cakewalk. And life is not a cakewalk. They walk into this company of, Renu there, and Renu says, "Oh my God, what are you doing here? You should be out, waiting out. Don't come in." But we have essentially told them that, you know what, you're worth it. They're not worth it. So let reality be faced by them, only then they can wake up.
But uncertainty is really a way of life, and we should encourage it. But in the schooling system and in higher education also, there is this thing called grading, let it be relative or not, evaluation. None of this uncertainty is built into that evaluation, sadly. Even IIM entrance is pretty structured. You take the guesswork out, and then that only leaves the brute force, and whoever can, work hard gets in. How can we bring better metrics of evaluation into how students are graded, and then they would then understand that trying 10 times is worth more than, I'm reminded of this one kid who walked into my office one day, and I said, the first question I asked him is, "Why are you here?" And he says, "I have 3.5 GPA. I passed out of this college," and so on and so forth. And I said, "Yeah, but 80% is how you passed out. That means that out of every 100 jobs I give you, you're going to screw up 20. That is a pretty big risk to me." So evaluation also has to change, probably. Final thoughts on this, Professor Virmani?
What you are saying is that how do we evaluate?
Yes, absolutely.
Their ability and all that. Now, I remember the Satya Nadella. He was here a year ago, and he's an ex-student of your school, Hyderabad Public School. I happened to be in their governing board. And he said, we asked him to address the students and the teachers. And he said that he was never a good student. He was never a topper. 20, he said, but he was not the topper. And he
Good
tried.
thing he went to the US, right? Otherwise, he would have been lost.
He tried IITs and all that. He couldn't get through. So he went to Manipur, which is also good. But he said that, as Dr. Renu Khanna said, that family and the earlier this, and he was giving credit to the school. He said that hobbies were compulsory, the sports were compulsory, and that really helped him in molding his personality. And that helped him when he went to USA. So therefore, the evaluation question is a very ticklish one, that how do you evaluate? But we have to go to the family, we have to go to the schooling, because your base is built in the school. You know? And once your base is built, then always succeed. It is immaterial whether you are from Manipal or you are IIT and all that. Base is very crucial.
Any final questions? Hello?
So, Dr. Rao was saying there are two sides, left side, right side. And I think on the left side, the entire discussion is heavily loaded on the left-hand side. Seems that for the last 20 years, what I'm seeing is that whenever the company comes, the company advises a subject to be taught, and the subject is introduced in the curriculum. And this way, I have seen that as many as 40 plus subjects are being taught in 2 years. Now the time has come that what we have done in our institution, those 40 subjects have been reduced to 34. Still I feel that we are teaching too much. I have the problem. The problem is that you still say that the B schools are not teaching enough or training enough. What I need to do? At one time, it was said that ethics has to be taught. After 5 years, I learned that ethics cannot be taught. So again, ethics was in, now ethics is out. And now again, people are saying, no, ethics in a new way has to be put in the curriculum. These way, a lot of subjects have come in, it's gone out. I feel only the fundamental understanding is enough what we can do from the school. Rest, I think the industry has to take care when the students are entering the industry. Otherwise, that role of corporate India, what is the time of the corporate India to come and partner with the academic institutions to create holistic learning environment. So my question to the corporate honchos, that what you can do really for the business schools like us, so that really we can deliver the products which you aspire.
I think a couple of things we can do. And from TechMahindra and of course Satyam earlier, we've tried that. We have worked on something which is called faculty development programs. We've also worked on what are some of the key skills that are required, especially in the engineering colleges, which can be taught, which are the hot skills in the market today. Can you make it introductory as a part of your syllabus? The third thing that we can do is, which are the soft skills that are required by the academies? We can help you to do that. We can do joint research. If you think some research papers can be done together by the colleges and by the corporates, we would be happy to partner with you. Conferences and conclaves that we keep happening, we could invite your faculty members to that from time to time. We could focus on continuing education, which means that when your people come in, we can again send them back to colleges. I think these are a couple of things. We could help you in designing the curriculum if you think that's required. These are 6, 7 things that definitely we would like to do, and if some corporates have approached us or the institutes have approached us, we have done it, because ultimately what I said, your output is our input. And if it reduces our training time, when we take in engineers, we give them 3 months of training. But if they can learn from home before they come into the institutes, we would be more than happy to collaborate with you on this. So it's going to be a collaborative approach. It can't be you versus me. We fought that battle for a very, very long time. But I think it's time to join hands. So continuing education, research, curriculum development, faculty development, conferences, conclaves, I think we could partner in all of them. And I think all our people sitting in various corporates, internships, visits to corporates, spending some time, I think this is all possible.
Thank you.
My name is
add a word to this and then go to the final, and I'll make it very quick because Dr. Renu Khanna has given a very comprehensive list of what can be done. I just want to add from the approach point of view, I'm not very comfortable with the word what can we teach or what can be taught. And so I was thinking, what was the word that can replace that word? And I think role model is a word that can replace. So ethics cannot be taught, it can be role model. Rather than just kind of give a laundry list of things you can add to your syllabus, I think what can be role model is the fact that we can learn how to learn. So when I go to your institute, I should not go as a corporate honcho, I should go as a student. In other words, I should go with the mindset of a person, of a learner. And that can be role modeled very well. Which means that if I have to, and I'm talking when I say I mean every one of us corporately, I have to find myself. If I have to be a role model, I have to find myself more often in the college. Find many reasons. It could be mentoring, as he said. It could be making our centers of excellence instead of having it in our own companies, have it in our colleges. So we should find reasons to go there and be role models. And I think that would be more powerful. Rather than learning 40 subjects, if they learn how to learn, that will stand them in good stead in the long run.
It's not a question. I just made some small contribution to my previous organization. I thought of sharing with you all, and which is well connected to the topic. And my first of all, my compliments to Professor Vermani and the entire panel presented over here and the audience. Thank you very much for the Vignana Jyothi for giving me this opportunity. In 2004, I was working as a HR head for Indian Register of Shipping based in Powai, which was in Mumbai. And that time we were facing a huge challenge of getting naval architects from the country, and that is where we had a huge requirement. And our business was not exactly the objectives were not getting fulfilled. I joined at that time in 2004 there. So we tried looking at naval architects, which are only 3 institutes, which is generally 3 to 4 institutes who provide the naval architects in the country. One is IIT Kharagpur, where we had about 5 seats as a nomination basis. And also on the other side, that Cochin University, Andhra University, and IIT Chennai. These are the 4 institutes supply the naval architects. The entire strength could be close to 100. And most of the people used to join the international shipping bodies and the classification societies, who are like American Bureau of Shipping, Lloyd Register of Shipping, because they get a better pay, because they get a better environment, they earn in dollars. That was the reason. So what happened, we were facing a challenge as an Indian body, and we tried looking at how better we could be able to do that. We have an abundant talent of close to 200 people who spent close to anywhere between 10 to 20 years in the organization. That time, we felt that how we can use them, some of them at the verge of the retirement, we felt that how we can use their skills and how we can translate them into, converting some kind of an employable talent in the country. On the other side, those people who were joining from IIT Kharagpur and other places, they were quitting within the first 2 years because their aspirations were much more higher when they compare to their peers and their seniors and their colleagues. That's where the challenge. What we did is that we tried looking at what is the common in naval architecture. The common is production engineering, mechanical engineering, strength of material, hydrodynamics. These were the things where we found which were common across the engineering in some areas where we could be able to pick the talent and can groom them, which is very close to the naval architecture. What we did, we identified 20 of the people who are the senior most people who have ability to train the younger talent. We picked them and we groomed them again with a couple of orientation sessions, how to deal with the youngsters. And what we did is that we went with an advertisement. We got initial 30 people capacity to train over a period of 1 year. What we did is that we went into all India recruitment. We preferred taking people from tier 2 cities, and we sent an all India advertisement, and that advertisement gave us we got about 3,000 applications across the cities in the country. And out of 3,000 students, after giving the test, we put a criteria, and out of the criteria we got about 300 folks. And out of 300, we took about 30 folks, and there are about close to another 10 who also got good marks. Because of the budget and because of the approvals, we couldn't be able to increase the strength from 30 to 40. And our MD had gone ahead and got the board approval and gave us approval to accommodate another 10 more. And those 40 people, and we repeated 3 years over a period of time, our attrition was not more than 2%. So hardly is about not even 1% left, actually speaking. That was the example what we did, and we paid. You may surprise. In 2004, we gave accommodation because they came from tier 2 cities. We need to take care of them in Mumbai, so we put them next to our office, which was a shipping corporation building, and they gave a nice accommodation. What we paid 8,000 rupees per month, and if they completed 1 year service in the company, and we gave them a 12 months training. If they completed 1 year training, 1 year service after training, we gave them 50,000 rupees as a reward. And if they completed 2 years, we gave them 2 lakhs rupees. That was all what we did, and we crafted so well. 3 batches I did it, and all 120 people, out of which that we have only, if I could see now, 10 people left from the institution. I just want to share this example. Where an abundant talent in niche area, in many companies it is still available. All that academicians and also the corporates need to come together, as the way Mrs. Renu said that, the alliances which are very important. Thank you so much, and that is a small example I would like to share.
Thank you very much. One final.
Relatively small, take a little small time. I don't have a question. I have a suggestion to my college. I'm an alumni of this college, 13th batch. I'm having 8 years of working experience, and I know 100 of my colleagues and my seniors who have never put their foot inside the college campus once they have passed out. This is a very cost-effective method, Mr. Roy, Dr. Roy. If you start engaging with the alumni of the college, you not look beyond the alumni, because trust me, we are not obsolete. We are updated version. Okay, we deal with. In fact, we are the people who are dealing with people like Mrs. Renu and Mr. Pramod day in and day out in corporates. Okay, to survive, to get our promotions, to get our hikes. So you engage us. You engage us. You call us for a topic. You let your alumni take the burden to bridge this gap. And I promise you, there are a dozen people who will be enough to take care of your. Take care of the gap that pedagogy and all topics that we have. Thank you so much.
So many thoughts, so many ideas. Probably I hope that this panel has triggered off the series again with renewed, stop from the blame game and then more on a collaborative effort. I thank the panel. I thank the audience for being so, although you've started on your appetizers while we are starving here, I still thank you for your patience. And then now I invite Dr. D.N. Rao to present a small memento. There are many, I don't know.
Thank you for coming.
Invite Mr. Nane Prabhakar Rao Garu, member of Accounting Council to go. One final thank you, and let's stop the food for thought and fill our bellies. Thank you very much. Join us for dinner.
Just 1 minute, Shishi. Yeah, I don't know your name. Abdul. Yeah. Abdul. Here you are, representing me or alumni? Good. Now you see that there are 4 alumni. They are regularly teaching our students. They're taking the full courses. So you are welcome. So please meet us, and whatever subjects you can teach, I will give it to you. Thank you. So I'm not saying that when we change the syllabus, alumni is a part of that. And 2 alumni are in the advisory body. Right.